It's another Mailbag Friday, so let's get to some questions from the listeners.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you listen to podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wanting to know a little bit more about how this channel works, I bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30 minutes in length there. And then we also have the 60-second YouTube shorts that we post after all of the Royals games, though sometimes on the weekend, not always able to get to them. But if I ever don't get anything up for those quick YouTube shorts, you can count on the Royals postcast, which is hosted by Chance Lebo. He'll be back beginning tonight because the Royals and Marlins will begin their 3-game series in Miami. He'll go live for about 15 to 20 minutes and give you his full breakdown after all of the Royals games, which there are only 65 to go in the 2025 season. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So get started today over at FanDuel. We got a lot of questions to get to from Twitter. We have a lot of questions to get to on YouTube. So we're going to kick things off with the questions that were sent in from YouTube. This one is from Morgan. I know Trevor Bauer has been blackballed from baseball. My question is why? As I understand, he was cleared from all accusations, and I believe he could be a top 50 pitcher in baseball. Why don't we give him a shot? You know, I can't really speak for 2022 and 2023, but at this point, even with the numbers, he's putting up in Japan, which aren't very good, to be honest with you, he's far removed from baseball. I mean, we just don't see too many guys that are 4 or 5 years removed from the game and get an opportunity. And, if baseball did blackball him, didn't want him back in, clearly every team listened. But at this point, 2025, no, I don't believe he could be a top 50 pitcher in the game. And I just don't believe any team wants to give him a shot because of how far removed he's been and also with the numbers that he's putting up in Japan. Because even if he's putting up good numbers in Japan, we've seen failed pitchers go from the States over to Japan and find some success. But for him, he just hasn't put up good numbers anymore. Now he's creeping into his mid-30s. Just don't see too much upside for any team out there to sign him. This next one is coming from DJ Mack. How do you feel about a trade for Josh Lowe with the Rays? Their outfield is getting crowded with prospects they have coming up. I'm thinking giving up Jonathan Bolin and Daniel Vasquez or Austin Charles. He's got injury history and hasn't been good as he was in 2023, but a fresh start might help. The only reason I'd push back is I feel the Rays really believe that Brandon Lau is going to be a key piece for their second half push. If the Rays start falling out of it, we've seen time and time and again, they like to sell off pieces and just try to keep their team pretty cheap. That might help them financially if they were to trade away Brandon Lau. They're still in the hunt, though. If they were 10 games under 500, I'd be all for it. I just don't see him being unloaded by the Rays with their position right now in the wild card race. Next one here is coming from Braden. I know execs may not operate this way, but as a fan, are there teams you wish the Royals didn't deal with at the deadline? Seems like they've been burned by San Diego, Atlanta, and the Dodgers before. There really shouldn't be anybody they say no to if it betters their team. And I do feel that execs all work in good faith. Like, no exec out there is trying to burn the other GM. That's just not the way it works in baseball. They know that if they're going to acquire a good player, they want to feel that they're sending a good player as well. It doesn't always work out, but when we have those deals they call fleecing, it's not the GM is trying to trick the other GM there. They're trying to send a good player that both sides feel is pretty good, and if it doesn't work out, that's just what happens in this game. But in my opinion, if they were to stay away from anybody, no, in the past, the Rays were one of them because if it was a pitcher you were sending there, you knew he was going to be great. As of this year, I would say stay away from teams that are in your own division because you just don't want to better them while you're chasing them. I just don't see any significant deals happening between the Royals and Tigers or Royals and Guardians or Royals and Twins. Next one is coming from KC United. What is your opinion on bucket hats? I don't wear them. I just stick to the typical hats you see me wear on this podcast. I'm not completely against them. Like if you're at the lake and you get sunburned a lot and your face gets sunburned, they work out there. But I don't wear them. I don't own a bucket hat. I've got some friends that own bucket hats and they love to wear them. So what I would say is not my cup of tea, but I'm not adamantly against them every time somebody wears them in my presence. Next one's from Austin. Do you think we will see MJ return to the show? And if so, with the Royals or a different team? I believe he's going to get another shot in Kansas City. Not in an everyday role, but with injuries that could happen, the outfield depth being so thin, I wouldn't hate to see him get a shot later on in the season. Hopefully when the Royals are thriving and him replacing a John Rave off the bench could actually be seen as a good thing. I'm not counting on him to be an everyday starter anymore, though. I'm fine with him being a bench bat, have some power there, but not looked at as someone that can start maybe even once every 3 games. I'm fine with him just being a reserve, that if you need him to come off the bench late in the game, he's got that power element. This one is coming from Jordan. What does it take to get Ramon Laureano? Seems like a guy under the radar, but not sure why. Having a good season and the O's are going to be sellers. Only reason I would push back, because I love the idea of Ramon Laureano coming to Kansas City. He's a rental bat, at least as the last time I checked, he was a rental bat. The Royals got their rental bat at Adam Frazier. It didn't cost them that much, in my opinion. Ramon Laureano might cost a little bit more, and I'm sure if the Royals are to acquire another rental player, it would be starting pitching, so they can have some depth there. If they're going to acquire an impact bat, I know it can't always work out this way. They're going to want to get somebody that they can count on being there next year. Maybe you try to sign Ramon Laureano in the offseason, though, because he has put up a really good season for the Orioles, who, as you said, and I completely agree with, are going to be selling at the deadline. Next question is coming from Camaro. If we make the playoffs and Reagans isn't healthy, who is our game 1, 2, and 3 starter? Funny enough, I see it being the exact same way they've set up this Marlins series. Game 1 would be Seth Lugo, Game 2 would be Michael Wacha, and Game 3 would be Chris Bubic. That's just because Wacha and Lugo have postseason experience. Bubic does, but not starting games. So if it was a wild card series, I could see them going Lugo Game 1 and then Wacha Game 2. And then if you need a winner-take-all game, I'd be all right going to Chris Bubic, of course, based off how he's fared this season. Reese's question. I agree with everything regarding the Frazier trade. My only negative thought is why didn't the Royals make more of an effort in the offseason to improve their bench? Why weren't guys like Frazier and Pham re-signed? Feel like we would have 1 to 2 more wins if we had those 2 from the start of the season. Thanks for the content. And thanks for the kind words, Reese. The reason they didn't go after guys like Tommy Pham and Adam Frazier, who then both went to Pittsburgh, Pham still wanted to be a starter. And they gave him everyday starts out there in Pittsburgh. And I'm not sure the Royals were going to be able to give that to Tommy Pham, at least going into the offseason. Adam Frazier was someone they thought that Cavan Biggio could match that production with. They thought Cavan Biggio, someone they had their eye on as early as last offseason. And I'm not speaking of 2024's offseason or 2025's offseason. I'm speaking of 2024's or going into the 24 season. They thought Cavan Biggio would be cheaper, which he was, a minor league deal, and he could hit 205 with a higher on-base percentage. They thought Mark Canha could do the same thing. They wanted to go cheaper and get better production. It just didn't work out that way, and that's also the unfortunate part about the offseason. If you don't get the right guys, it's really going to be a glaring hole for you once you get 90 to 95 games in and you're getting absolutely nothing from your bench. Next one is coming from, looks like, Kojone, I believe is how you pronounce it. Do you think the Royals could go get Stephen Kwan? The only problem is that Cleveland would not want to trade in division. And how do you like the fit? Would love the fit. Believe he'd be a tremendous upgrade. No chance that Cleveland is going to be trading Stephen Kwan to the Royals, though. In fact, I read an article this morning that he's one of the players they're deeming untouchable alongside like Jose Ramirez. And there was one other, I can't quite remember who they said was untouchable. But Ramirez and Kwan, I know, at the top of that list. So, no, I don't see Kwan being a Royal this year. Christopher asks, what do you think of Seth Lugo and one of our catching prospects for Jarren Duran? Jarren Duran might be a hot commodity. I said this on the episode last night that it's going to take a haul. So if you were to trade Seth Lugo and a Carter Jensen or Seth Lugo and Blake Mitchell, man, you really got to expect Jarren Duran to be more of what he was last year than what he's been this year. In my opinion, I don't do that if I'm the Royals. I would just try to find a cheaper option that has years of control. But somebody I feel is going to overpay for Jarren Duran if the Red Sox decide to pull the trigger. And if that does happen, I'd be fascinated to know what the return would be. We're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, still a lot of questions to get to next on Locked On Royals. You are tuning to Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Our title sponsor today, as we mentioned earlier, is FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. For my two picks tonight, I'll stay with the Royals and the Marlins. I will take Seth Lugo to have the over on strikeouts and innings pitched, and I'm also going to take Sandy Alcantara and the over for his innings there. Not comfortable enough saying the over-under for runs just because Sandy Alcantara's got a 7.22 ERA, but he's pretty much always worked deep into the game. So I'll take the over on innings for him, the over on innings and strikeouts for Seth Lugo. Next round of questions is going to begin with Cole. When will Cole Reagans come back? And do you think our bullpen can hold up with two starters on the IL? Love the channel. Keep up the great work. And as always, appreciate the kind words from Cole. Cole Reagans' timeline is mid to late August. And can the bullpen pick up the slack? Not for 5 starts. They could maybe do it once or twice and go with an opener in that spot. I would like for them to go out there and acquire an extra swing starter, though, by July 31st, because those oblique injuries, they can be a little bit tricky. Might want to be on the safe side and just expect Lorenzen to be out longer, and maybe even just to play it even safer, expect Cole Reagans to be back closer to the end of August and not the middle portion of it. This one's from Beastie Boy, Mailbag Friday. Why not make a run at Jarren Duran for Lugo and Lorenzen, plus pieces to level it out? Again, kind of same thing I said about Jarren Duran earlier. The asking price is going to be very high, and I just don't know if the Royals want to give up that much for one player and one player alone. I know you said pieces to even out a little bit. I just see him staying with Boston. They've won 10 games in a row. They're in a playoff spot. I don't feel they're going to be in a rush or have a huge urge to move him unless they were blown away by a deal, and I'm not sure the Royals had the pieces to get it done. Next one is going to be coming from, let's just double check to make sure I didn't miss any here on YouTube. Sometimes it refreshes a little bit too much, and then I lose my spot on it, but I believe that is everybody coming from YouTube. If I missed anybody's question, just follow up below on this video, and I'll answer it by the end of the weekend. Jumping over to Twitter, the first question that we are going to be getting to, we've got 31 of them here on the social media account. And baseball at all times question, he has got 2 of them. And your honest opinion, based on what management has done in the past, do you think what we do before the deadline gives us a playoff run? It's a part of that. It's also a part of what these guys do that are already on the team. If Bobby Witt Jr. has a strong second half, the pitching staff can get healthier, the bullpen can continue to do what it's doing, and Jack Caglione can be a league average bat, I really like their chances with who they could be adding at the deadline. Is it going to be good enough? I'm not there yet just because I really don't know all of the targets they may be looking at. But I would say that they'll be in the hunt in September if they do what I expect them to do. Next one is going to be coming from Paul. Your realistic list of 5 desired position player trade candidates are, mine would be Taylor Ward. Number 2 would be, I feel Alex Call would be a good fit from Washington. Number 3, I will say Cedric Mullins. Number 4, I'll go Adolis Garcia. And number 5, I will say, because I just don't see Kyle Stowers being unloaded at this point, I'll see Jesus Sanchez from the Marlins, who the Royals are going to see later on tonight. This one's from Alex. Hey, Jack, love the work you do. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream? This might be controversial, but I'm not going to shy away from it. Mint chocolate chip. And what's funny is I've had a lot of people tell me it's such a terrible flavor. I've always enjoyed it. Now, there's never been an ice cream flavor I've truly disliked, but if I'm going to the go-to, it would be mint chocolate chip. This one's from Wit Nation. Besides Ward, who else do you think could be targeted and then trade for an outfield bat? Based on what's being said out there of guys that would be available, the 2 we talked about, just make a lot of sense, and Adolis Garcia and Taylor Ward. Those two guys have been floated out there too many times for it to mean nothing. I brought up Alex Call and Jesus Sanchez. They just haven't been floated out there enough for me to believe they really would be moved. Cedric Mullins, I do believe is going to get moved. Unfortunately, I believe he's a rental bat. He might have one extra year of control, but I know it's not 2 years of control. Those top two names, though, would be the ones that we talked about earlier on in the week. This one's from John. We don't trade Lugo, do we? If we do, I think we are basically giving up. It wouldn't be that they're giving up. It would be that they are trying to acquire more offense, and they feel that their rotation can pick up the slack to close out the year. Kind of in the same way when the Red Sox traded Devers, they still felt that they could compete, and lo and behold, they've been really good since trading Rafael Devers. I just don't believe that they are going to trade Seth Lugo. They would have to be floored by a deal, and they would have to be completely out of it by the 31st. That would take a 3-9 stretch over these next 12 games, or maybe even a 4-8 stretch. The next one is going to be coming from Chili Willie. Will Jack reach 10 home runs, and will he stop chasing? Hopefully he can stop chasing. I do see him getting to 10 home runs. He's at 4 right now. So to get 6 in the final 65 games, I believe that's absolutely doable. And I believe he's going to have a stronger second half than he had a first half, though his first half set the bar incredibly low. If he hit 200, he would be improving his batting average by 20 points. Gene's question, if adding a low-cost vet to help the situational hitting was a good idea, why in God's name didn't they do it months ago when it became clear that the offense stunk out loud? How many of those close losses might have become wins if they could even have one more run? It probably came down to that the Pirates weren't going to trade Adam Frazier that early. That's what a lot of those teams that are going to be selling always try to do. They try to maximize that player's value. And if they felt that Adam Frazier could be a 255 hitter and be good enough for them in the first half, they were going to hang on to him. It was unlikely that when he was playing well in April and May, they were going to try to jump the gun and trade him away. Just because they wanted to see if they could get even more value for him when there's no rush to trade somebody in the early months of the season. Aiden's question, what do you think the other move should be that the Royals make? They absolutely need a corner outfield bat or two. They need a starting pitcher. Those are the 3 moves I would love to see them make. If they can add 2 extra outfielders, 2 with years of control, and then 1 rental starting pitcher, I'd feel pretty good about what they did at the deadline. Next one's from Thomas. What do you think they will do with Cags if he continues to struggle? We did talk about this a little bit last night. I do not see them demoting him this year. They're just going to let him play throughout the rest of these final 65 games because there's nothing he can gain by going back down to AAA. I've always felt this with guys that struggle at the big league level. You need to demote them if it's a confidence issue. If it's a confidence issue and they need to go down there and hit 350 or 400 in AAA, then go ahead and do it. I don't get that sense yet from Caglione that he is really struggling in the confidence department. I believe it's tweaks in his swing and how he's approaching things at the plate that need to be adjusted. That's not going to matter much if he does it in AAA because he's too talented for that spot. If he goes down there and struggles, then you really know the confidence is dipped, and now you might have ruined the player for good. So I believe he's going to stay up here. If it's really bad, he's just going to have to play through it, and then you get into the offseason. It's a full reset going into 2026. Eli's question, not a deadline acquisition, but do you think Michael Harris could be an offseason target? He's had good seasons, but has gotten worse every year with a 551 OPS now. The Braves could like the opportunity to get off his long-term deal, and the Royals could get a high upside center fielder. I don't hate it. I haven't thought about that before. That does feel like a move the Royals would try to make in the offseason of going after a guy that needs to bounce back, that needs just a change of scenery. Maybe the Braves would try to move him. I still believe, though, it'd be a little bit expensive to get that deal done in the winter. Joe's question, what is the rotation? I'm assuming that is for this weekend. That is going to be Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, and then Chris Bubich. Funny enough, the exact 3 that we predicted on last night's episode. If you're looking ahead to next week, it'll be Noah Cameron on Monday in Chicago. And then Tuesday, my guess is it's going to be an opener game where they throw someone out there like an Angel Saber to go 1 inning, and then Jonathan Bowen and maybe somebody they call up to get that extra depth can be the guy to piggyback off of that. Crankin's question, if Lugo is dealt, what would we be able to grab major league ready outfielder with pop and some years of control? I believe he said, would we be able to grab a major league outfielder with pop and some years of control? Yes, they would. And that's what they would be looking for. If they're going to unload Seth Lugo, they want guys that can help out right now. If they're talking to Chicago, I don't believe they get that deal done unless Owen Casey is involved in that trade. Anything less than that, even Kevin Alcantara, I don't believe that's enough to get it done. So Owen Casey's the guy that would be the number one chip to go out there and get if you're going to trade. If it's somebody that's not ready to compete and take big league at bats right now, I do not see the Royals making that deal with Lugo. All right, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap it up with our final set of questions next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find us on wherever you listen to your podcast. The final set of questions are going to begin with John. Does the new bat in the lineup hit 7th in the order? If you're talking about Adam Frazier, I'm going to say no. I'd imagine Frazier will hit 8th or 9th on nights that he will be starting. Could always be 7th, but if Caglione's going to hit 6th, I don't want to have back-to-back lefties. I'd like to stagger it a little bit. If you're talking about someone they could eventually acquire, a Taylor Ward type, they'll hit much higher than 7th. I could see them in the 4 or the 5 hole because right now Maikel Garcia is hitting cleanup, and as good as he is, he's not a cleanup hitter. You need someone that's got tremendous pop, and that's why I did the episode on Taylor Ward last night. Next one is from Mark. How many games from tomorrow will the Royals need to decide if they are fully buying or selling? I've said before, and I'll say it again, I feel they've already told us that they're going to be trying to buy. They're going to be trying to add players, and they don't need to wait until the 31st. If they go 2-10 or 3-9 over their next 12, they'll have no choice but to sell, which is why I think they're going to make moves well before the 31st so you can lock in that you are going to be a buyer for the final 2 months of the season. And maybe I shouldn't even say a buyer for the final 2 months because they have until the 31st to decide. If they sweep this series in Miami, they can make a move Sunday night. And I think everybody would be on board with it because they'd be 50-50 through 100 games. If they take 2 of 3, maybe you see how the Chicago series goes. But these first 2 series are going to decide a lot whether they are definitive buyers or they're going to be definitive sellers. 2-time All-Star Bobby Witt Jr.'s bats question. No question, Bobby will turn this team into the playoffs. Like the optimism, like the hope. And I do agree that he is going to have a tremendous second half to give this team an opportunity. Sean asks, can they add a power-hitting outfielder with multiple years of control? Can they withstand trading Lugo with Reagan still unsure of the return? Is this going to be a Tampa-like buy and sell? For question number 1, yes, I do see them getting a power outfield bat by the deadline. Number 2, no, they will not be a playoff team if they trade away Seth Lugo and have the uncertainty of Cole Reagans. Number 3, is this going to be a Tampa-like buy and sell? That's if they go a few games under 500 in this next 12-game stretch. If they're within 5 games of a wild card spot, I can see a little bit of both, but probably still leaning more toward the sell side. Amo's question, who do you think we're going to get for Lugo? That's just where I don't see it being a definitive answer yet. I don't see them trading Seth Lugo. They have been so adamant about not trading him. It could be a smokescreen, but if the Royals play well in these next 12 games, he's staying here. And that doesn't just mean it gives him a chance in the second half. I believe that screams they feel they can re-sign him next season. And if you keep him around for the second half, you can start those negotiations. You trade him away, you might have lost your opportunity to re-sign him in the offseason. And I know the Royals would really love to have him back. AD's question, if we don't accomplish the playoffs this year, will JJ hold himself accountable for not doing a damn thing, but in a nicer way? Here's where I'm at. And I get the offense has struggled. They went out there and traded Brady Singer for Jonathan India. It hasn't worked out the way they thought it did. Carlos Estevez, they gave a 3-year deal to. They re-signed Michael Wacha. They demoted guys that everybody wanted demoted pretty much when it happened. But just because the moves didn't work out means you need to hold somebody accountable or fire somebody. Sometimes it falls back on the players. Now, do they have a change with the hitting coach and Alex Zumwalt? I don't really know. That's probably an episode we'll have in the offseason at some point. But the Royals are hovering around 500 and are 4.5 games back of a wild card spot. If they were 20 games under 500, then yeah, you would absolutely need to be holding somebody accountable. But the offseason market was so bad in 2024 going into 2025. Everybody that was the big name really hasn't worked out. There have been the outliers, but Anthony Santander has not worked out. Jurickson Profar suspended half the season. Randall Grichuk has not been that great. Tyler O'Neill has not been that great and hurt. There was not the perfect fit. Jock Peterson's another name. Has not been great. Nobody really went all in because the outfield market wasn't very good. but I don't see him holding himself accountable. And let's see what happens in the second half. If they bottom out, then maybe. But right now, it's a season that they've underachieved, not the first half they wanted, but it's not been catastrophic, even though the offense has struggled mightily. This one's from Jerry. If we needed to go get a starting pitcher other than Jeffrey Springs, who else do you think we could get that wouldn't cost a bunch of prospects? My first thought would be Andrew Heaney, free agent at the end of the year. Also, what's your favorite brand of barbecue sauce? Mine is easily Stubbs. Love the Gates barbecue sauce for that answer. Love Andrew Heaney. Wanted to bring him up in yesterday's episode, actually. I also believe you could go for someone. I hate this idea, but you go after a Rockies pitcher like Austin Gomber, maybe, just to have a change of scenery. The guys that are pitching in Coors Field are set up for failure. Maybe you get them somewhere else and they could have a little bit more success, but they'd be incredibly cheap. So somebody that could be a rental, that's what I'm all for. Andrew Heaney, I believe, would be the best pickup. The Royals also just dealt with the Pirates, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Parker's question, where do you think the Royals will play after Kauffman, whether that be in Kansas or in downtown or in North Kansas City? I'm between downtown and North Kansas City. Those would be my two picks. That's what I feel is the most likely. I also have no clue. I've got no intel there. I've always thought downtown baseball would be great because that was the reason you wanted to move in the first place, was to get downtown baseball. You just need a perfect site that will make everybody happy. If not there, then I would expect it to be in North Kansas City. Levi's question, where will the Royal Stadium be located in 2032? I'll just refer back to what I just said 5 seconds ago. David's question, it's pretty clear they won't do anything with Zumwalt this season. What are the chances we see sweeping changes on the hitting side of the game in the offseason? I don't believe they will do anything. Also, what would it take to land Taylor Ward? In the past, I feel it was going to take one of the top 3 catchers. I still believe that to be the case, but I believe you could get it done with one of your catching prospects and then a lower-end pitching prospect. This one is from Curtis, who is more likely to replace Lorenzen as the 5th starter while he is out. Minor league call-up, Hill, Hatch, etc., or bullpen day. I'm going to say a bullpen day for 1 start. If it needs to be 2, I'm going to go with Rich Hill or Thomas Hatch. I believe those will be the 2 likeliest options. Don't think Dallas Keuchel is ready. This one's from Craig, who is next to be called up from the farm system. Could be one of those arms. We will know, though, that they got to make a move for Lorenzen going on the injured list, because I don't believe they did have a corresponding move just yet. Maybe Andrew Hoffman or Evan Sisk would make a lot of sense, both guys that have pitched out of the bullpen this year. Those would be my 2 that are the most likely to give the bullpen a little bit more relief there. Mike's question, who is next up for the Royals rotation if a starter is dealt or injured? Royals have 0 prospect depth on the active roster. Refer back to that. Think it'll be 1 bullpen start. And then by the time the second start rolls around, you could have made a move by then. So I'm not going to rule that out either. Just don't believe there is a permanent answer in Omaha for the time being. Next one's coming from Brian. If you've been to Marlins Park, what's the best food? If not, your favorite stadium food and where? Have not been to Miami. Favorite stadium food, the crab sandwich at Oracle Park in San Francisco. A little bit pricey, but it's worth the price if you get that with the garlic fries as well. The Post Gods question, what do the Royals have to give up for Casey and Alcantara? An outfield with them and Jack could be insane. Add in Vinny and Witt. Is Garcia the price? I believe it could be Seth Lugo, but you'd also have to add in another prospect or another arm from your bullpen to get that done. Those are 2 bats that could certainly help out and give you the upside. They're also not proven commodities, and I believe the Royals want to add more proven commodities to this 2025 roster. And lastly, Prepsley says, my prediction for the second half is the offense takes a step up, but the pitching takes a step back, leading to around a 500 record at the end of the season. Certainly a possibility, because some of these guys in the first half have not thrown an entire year before out of the rotation. Chris Bubich has, but I think it was only like 140 to 160 innings. If he's in the 180 to 190 mark, you can expect some regression. We touched on that last night. Noah Cameron's never been a full-time starter at the major league level. Micah Watkins, Seth Lugo just aren't 200-inning guys for back-to-back years. And we'll see what this rotation does. But I do see the offense taking a step up. I expect some slight regression. A 500 record is probably the safest bet to say. They would have to make more moves, though, to get a few games over 500, because in my opinion, the target record they need to get to grab at least 1 playoff spot is 86-76, which, of course, was their exact record from a year ago. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We're going to be off this weekend, but back on Monday recapping the entire Marlins series and looking ahead to a matchup with the Chicago Cubs. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.